Valixsys is going to experience a few things. Obviously, to remind you, you are effectively being consumed by stomach acid, which is a pretty horrific way to die. I don't think there's any reason for that to kind of be taken too lightly on its own.
All right.
I bet. Trying to grab some other information real quick. So that's going to be one thing to kind of keep in mind with like these kind of final experiences or recent experiences of Valixsys. Um, Other than that, you are going to feel what is going to be almost an eternal kind of stillness. The time between you dying and what we'll basically talk about here is minutes, hours, days, years, outside of time. You're going to have a certain level of torment that is almost going to be clouding what it means to have just died because you have so much experience of kind of just being held still in this darkness. You are going to feel a very slow cold creep into you over this whole experience. And that, probably more than anything, is kind of like your timekeeper. This is going to be an experience of cold that Valixsys would have never had in her entire life. As a child of midwinter, child of Arl, you've never really felt cold. So the way people have described it, that's almost like a defense mechanism of faking it to make people feel more comfortable around you. You do what you can to try to pretend that you understand what cold is. This is going to be an experience where you start to feel it. And it kind of just creeps on you. And again, you don't really have a recognition of time, only kind of that moment by moment your brain is more conscious of this ever increasing cold. You again are in kind of an ever increasing kind of darkness. There's eerie echoes, creaking and moaning. Um, Something that constantly reminds you that there is something beyond what you are experiencing. And at some point, there's just going to be a flicker of blue light, and you're going to see this kind of point, this mote of light, just kind of growing, almost moving. It's hard to really give yourself a reference of what anything is because you don't have the ability to move and you just kind of see something in front of you. And in the same way the cold's ever increasing, you start to wonder if that blue mote is increasing. Until after quite some time, you will have a sense where there's almost color changes to this light that's coming from it. And it's almost kind of the bleed over of light passing through water or light passing through glass, or as you've experienced recently here, light passing through ice. And kind of the way that like waves of light almost reflect in the ice where these points are being focused more than others. Valixsys may even understand kind of this like reflection is almost the underlying weave being exposed through the light that you can see visually, and you're starting to see that it seems to be more than anything whatever this blue light getting closer and closer to you. And after a while, you'll start to see that it's a dancing figure. You can almost see that, like, there's legs that are kind of propelling it forward and upward, and it always seems to be getting closer to you until you start to see that the movements of its limbs almost snap to, and there's a little bit of a color change to this, like, blue as the appendages kind of like push off. That like snap of a muscle almost causes the colors to kind of go a little bit more towards a purple spectrum, and it becomes a little bit more of a kind of full focus over you for some time. Then now there's like a visual happening, and it starts to kind of dull all of your other senses, where you start to feel kind of without a body, without a sense of hearing, and things kind of flow into what is more of kind of a visual experience of this kind of light flashing, and you start to find yourself in a rather hypnotized state. But you see before you the figure of a young lady, maybe in kind of her 30s or so, humanoid, seems to be, for all intents and purposes, a human, but she's completely made of ice. She's nearly completely see-through. There's just a little bit of like opaqueness to her, where you can almost see like the outlines of organs within. They're just like these white, stark lines, and you can kind of see like this reflection that despite being made of kind of a glass-like ice, she seems to have like a full living body within. And after some time, you're going to start to kind of feel these pulses in the light, and the cold kind of returns to your body, and you start to gain a sensation of this creature kind of communicating through you. Um, you are going to feel sort of a odd sensation, kind of freezing cold along your neck and almost down your spine, kind of like the sides of your neck, and then following down your spinal cord. There might be kind of bumps in your scales, and you kind of feel this like cold, freezing sensation deepen into this location before the freezing sensation is going to leave your body. Um, this is going to be a moment where you start to hear a soft feminine voice in your ear. You are going to be asked if you still feel that you have more work to be done. Um, Assuming you find your way of saying to this creature who seems to be Arl, assuming you say yes.
Yes.
So when you respond, you're going to see her form kind of flash a little bit, and you'll see kind of as like her kind of humanoid nature kind of starts to disappear, and she's going to turn into a small little snow owl. And you're going to see as this creature kind of looks to you and says, when it becomes time, your tasks will become clear. You are truly my child now. Do not make me displeased with your actions. Um, she's going to kind of like reach forward with these long pointed feathers instead of arms. And you'll see as these feathers kind of start to flow through your body, and you are going to feel a sensation in the center of your chest as that freezing cold starts to burn before you are going to feel an incredible and immense pain as your heart feels more and more frozen by these feathers kind of poking into you. Um, then a voice will continue in your head. The rest of your experience, your path in life, must be directed towards me. You stray, your heart is mine. If you falter, your heart will melt. It is my winter that you will thrive in. And you're going to start to feel this like cold, freezing sensation that burns in the center of your chest as the burning sensation and this cold sensation kind of start to flow outward. You're going to start to feel as your flesh is burning, and you are going to come to inside of the acid of that creature, where we will pick up today. So, a few things are going to change about your character. Um, don't know how far we'll play everything with these three. Any other levels that you take, you are now locked into taking that Death Domain cleric. You don't get another choice with that. Valixsys from now on is going to be cleric, and you worship Arl. You have developed gills. You can swim and breathe underwater. You now have Constitution disadvantage. Disadvantage on Constitution saving throws whenever you are not fully submerged in water. And I need you to roll a D100. Alrighty. Yeah, so over the next expanse of time, I will let you know when you are no longer kind of experiencing some of these things. You are going to be experiencing more and more vivid hallucinations. Um, Many of this experience in the cold, many of them are going to be experiences with that creature that you guys have come across, but you will have disadvantage on your ability checks um, for some amount of time into the future. Again, I'll kind of let you know when that passes.
All right, all right. And so effectively, she now has gills permanently, and so she's basically a water kobold.
Yeah, for many senses of it, yeah, I would say you are more definitely Arctic kobold as well, because you still have the resistance to cold. You're definitely something that is essentially um, kind of a water creature, and most specifically adapted to the northern regions, the Arctic regions. So I'm going to move back over into the main chat here. Do you have any other questions before we're kind of in front of the others?
Uh,
Is anything? My bad. What were you thinking?
I'm not just making sure. So, with her being locked into the death cleric, basically every other elven next level will have to take her for the cleric, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far we will go with things, what will happen, and what level you guys will end at. But as far as I think this will kind of play out, you will not really have a choice but to worship Arl, or effectively you're going to like choose for Valixsys to pass on. On some level, your loyalties have very much changed to you're almost a pawn inside of this group at this point. You'll see what those costs are, and it'll just kind of be, I don't know, hopefully it's a twist that everybody kind of understands and enjoys. But in the long run, I think, yeah, the cost of it that you'll really see and experience is that the Death Cleric has to be where you focus here.
Alrighty.
Still inside of these cracked caves, deep inside of the Reghed Glacier.
Oh,
You guys
sorry. Can I
go for it? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I forgot the trash pit. It jogged my memory once as soon as we went back to the. So we before this the mimic in another chamber to the south of it, we found this kind of like refuse pile, and things seem to be kind of being added to it frequently. And looking through it a bit, didn't find anything valuable, but we saw a bunch of things that suggested that this stuff is coming from all different places. Some places familiar to us, some places completely unknown to us.
Excellent. Yeah, so we are inside of these tunnels. I think where we are actually going to pick up, you all are still battling over this thing. I hope I didn't mess that up. I meant to kind of actually watch through to pay attention to it. Do you guys remember? Did we kill it off and we got to Valixsys's body, or did we stop? 'Cause I feel like went to stop, thought we should continue, and then we ended up pretty much stopping. Um, do you guys remember where we were fighting the actual mimic? Because I still have it at 56 hit points.
You know what? I just assumed that we had defeated it when I was doing the recap, but we may have not gotten through the whole fight after Valixsys went down. So yeah, that would make sense that it's still.
Checking on that was actually right what I was doing when I started talking to Rashad. So I didn't actually get to that, purposefully trying to look for that moment. In the long run, it's perfectly okay by me to ask you guys, and you guys can decide. Do you want to continue fighting this, or would you like to jump into this as a narrative kind of thing, coming to the end of it?
I'm good to keep fighting it.
So I kept the initiative up, which is one of the reasons why I was thinking we had to have still been in the fight, and that this must have been right after it actually did the killing blow to Valixsys. So as far as I am concerned here, we will pick up with Brennick. I think for what it is worth, um, you've just seen Valixsys like consumed by this thing. Again, I was describing this one as kind of like a very like glossy black stone block, and then it started to turn almost into like oily, putty like appendages, kind of like coming out and striking out like kind of fists that would stick to you and start to cover you. And part of what would have been the last few experiences is basically watching as the first of these like slaps into Valixsys's arm and starts to like coat up the icicle. The second one like into the opposite left shoulder and starts to like consume almost the backside of Valixsys's arms, where the torso is going to be kind of pulled into it the next turn. And kind of by the time you're getting around to this, like Valixsys is entirely inside of this. I believe it has started to like latch onto. I think I've hit everybody, but I know at least Fen. I'm not sure if we've actually had Galeria going around in this combat yet. And I'm not sure if it's hit Brennick, but it's doing the same kind of attacks to you guys where you're watching a portion of this just turn into like a springy kind of putty that just is flying towards you, and if it gets close enough to hit you, it's starting to like melt into your flesh. So we can kind of pick up with Brennick how you would like to go forward with this.
Yeah, so Brennick seeing this and not sure of, you know, um not sure how long Valixsys might be able to survive in there, and not wanting to be swallowed up by the thing either. He's going all out. He's or much as he can, he is going to throw his hand forward and cast a second level magic missile into the mimic. Yeesh.
Ouch.
Or 10.
Would you please roll a d20 for me, Brennick? All right, Ben, watching Brennick reaching out, how would you like to react to this creature? I believe you have been punched by it already.
I'm going to attack with the sword first.
Solid cut into it.
I'm going to apply stunning strike to that.
Don't believe there is any way for it to. Oh. Yeah, it's going to kind of freeze for a moment before you start to see as the goo just starts to flow again. And it seems not to be affected by it.
And I'm going to follow that up with an arm strike. And if that hits, stunning strike on that as well.
Excellent. So that obviously will hit. Once again, you see for a moment as the goo almost like stiffens up. And I'm thinking about that like semi-solid kind of form of like water. And I think it's like wheat flour, where if you hit it sharply, it's almost solid like a dough or like a putty, where if you just let it flow, it pours like water.
All right, and I'm going to follow that up with one, my last key point for flurry of blows and 2 more unarmed strikes.
Excellent. All of that is going to connect solidly, and again, you're kind of getting these like strikes into it where it's hardening kind of as you punch these. What is that? I think that's a total of 34.
You are correct, 34.
And let's go to. I think Feline still has to dash to get through that because she's in difficult terrain. Oh, wait, those are little 5-footers. She's actually closer. I guess, Rashad, let me get a d20 from you. She will start to create those skeletal arms and reach out for this like black goo. That'll definitely hit, and I believe she does 2d8 damage.
Oh, Rashad, I think you're still on Whisper. FYI.
Oh, yeah. If his roll didn't come up, you're definitely on Whisper still. It looks that lighter gray.
Oh shoot, let me fix that.
Yeah, her chill touch is 2d8. If you can roll that. Other than that, it will go then to you, Valixsys, as Galeria. Shit, did I send you that character sheet? Can't remember what the cleric has. I'm sure it's probably a set effectively radiant light.
I think you said the help action was one thing she had. Because I think you talked about it a little bit last time, but
Yeah, but I actually had him pick out the school, which narrowed it down. That's why I was thinking. I think I sent it to him.
Yeah, you
Gotcha.
sent me like this. It says battle priest sheet. Is that it? I think that's it.
Yeah, the battle priest. Yep, that's what she would have. So what is that? She actually makes a weapon attack, and then you have 3 spiritual weapons. She would have all of those: spirit guardians and banishment once a day. But I'd say it's safe to say that signature attack is probably sufficient to end this.
Yeah, that's what she's gonna do. Is go for as a signature attack.
Gotcha. You're looking for a 8 or better to hit, and this thing was effectively dead, so it is effectively kill. Bam. So yeah, Galeria can smash into it with, what's her weapon of choice?
It's a great sword. Kind of looks like the one in her hand that is in the picture. It's green, almost emerald color. The tip is kind of extended out at a curved point.
Excellent. Yeah, so with that, he can cut into this creature. I think the way this is going to kind of play out is you guys will almost have to dissect this thing afterwards to sort of get to Valixsys. While there's certainly dangers with her body kind of still being in like the stomach acid of this creature, I think overall it's just more of like kind of a careful process with an inevitable. I feel like between Mage Hand and some things, you can kind of get the dirtiest stuff kind of managed. But you all are eventually going to come to a recognition that Valixsys's body has frozen into a block of ice inside of this thing. Eventually, you're kind of cutting off stomach, and this acid is flowing off of what is a perfectly clear, like frozen, perfectly clear glass-like chunk of ice. Um, Probably Valixsys in a roughly fetal position, just as you are inside something in a single kind of bite. You're more or less being pulled in by muscles and kind of clenched, and you just have Valixsys frozen, maybe inside of 6 to 8 inches or so of ice, but kind of cleaning away the last of the insides of this thing, which are all just flowing black, like uh, oil, like ligament and tissue. Every layer is kind of the same thing, and it's kind of like unfolding. It's very weird to like pick up these almost like pasta noodle like appendages of this thing as it's melting into these long ligaments. But you guys can clear away Valixsys. Uh, initial thoughts when you have Valixsys kind of frozen in this black chunk of ice?
So does the ice seem to be? Does it look like it's actually protected Valixis from some of the acid? Brandon, have
Her
you kind of?
body is certainly burnt and shows damage of acid. But also, I don't think that's a no either.
Yeah, so Brannick and they've seen now that Elixis seems to have some sort of, the cold doesn't seem to affect her. He's wondering maybe this is some spell that Elixis didn't tell him about, or some sort of ability. But he's going to. Um, it seems Elixis isn't really moving. He's going to look to Fen and suggest maybe we try to very carefully kind of try and break through some of this ice to get to Valixis.
Yeah, maybe use the torches to melt some of it. You said about 6 inches thick.
Like 6 inches around. So let's say a kobold is probably like, I don't know, I imagine they're pretty tiny. Say like the thickest part of this is maybe 2 feet of ice. You know what I mean? Like maybe across like the breastbone where the like lung uh rib cage is probably the widest point of the kobold. It's probably like 2 feet thick. I just kind of mean like around Valixsys though is like 6 inches of ice. But yeah, like starting to try to like melt it away with different fire sources. You all are going to find that this ice doesn't seem to respond to fire in the least bit. And assuming at some point, even out of frustration or something, that you actually throw a fire bolt at it, same thing. Even the magical fire does not seem to affect it.
Yeah, he would have been hesitant to do that at first, but when the regular fire didn't work, he would eventually, have tried that. Yeah, out of frustration than anything, trying to aim away from vital areas just in case.
And there's no movement, correct? Alexis is stiff.
Yeah, within the entire time, you'll see Valixsys is still kind of frozen in that same like fetal state.
Brannick's gonna look to Fen and then he'll probably look to Valine. You don't know if Alexis is alive in there, but you carry her. So we know what's going on. Feel we shouldn't leave her here.
I'd like to take a quick look around the room also. See if there's anything worth noting.
What value could we have by carrying her? Moment by moment, I am growing smaller. I can carry her now, but why carry her if I must set her down someplace else? So, looking around this room, I think you're going to find it's a rather plain area. Some of the lower ceilings probably still about 15 or so 15 or 20 feet high, and some of like the smaller like cracks and crags towards the top. But it seems to just kind of be like this little bit of an open area. But yeah, other than what was this stone cube in the center, there doesn't seem to be anything noticeable or stand out.
So Brennick will to Beline, he'll nod and fair point. I guess if we can't bring her with us, this place is probably as safe as any. Out of the way, at least.
Yeah, and I think she's already probably about like 12 or so feet, where she was like upwards of 22 or 23 before. So she's already kind of like half size, um, since I believe like it was during the vampire attack.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You had mentioned she'd started to shrink. I just kind of forgot.
Well, what do you think about? I mean, we have the climbers kits. Maybe use one of the pitons to try to crack the ice gently.
I mean, I suppose we could try, but if fire won't melt it, and even magical fire, I'm feeling there's something beyond us going on right now.
So if you take a piton to it and you try to hammer into it, you will find that the ice does not seem to mar in the least bit. The pressure doesn't even remove anything like little shavings that would make kind of like the very soft, almost powdered snow. It does not seem to be affected by anything that you kind of carefully take to it. Any other thoughts at present? How is everyone doing, like health wise? Are you kind of going to extend this room out into what becomes kind of a short rest to regather yourselves?
Yeah, I'm busted up pretty good.
So, if you would like, um, let me have all three of you roll a D12, please. Yeah, so if you would like, you can take that time to have a short rest. I'm not sure if you've used Arcane Recovery. You can grab your key points. You can expend some hit dice if you still have them on Fen. But you guys can take that time, passing about an hour here. I think probably about 40 or so minutes into this break, there's going to be kind of like a loud rendering shatter. The ice is going to split off of Valixsys in 4 different directions. And you all are going to see clothing wise, I think Valixsys is going to look overall pretty similar here. So yeah, Valixsys, you're kind of standing with pretty severe burns. Yeah, I guess that's kind of really what it is. A lot of that clothing could be pretty severely damaged, where perhaps you do see some of Valixsys's flesh is like kind of seared, but it's not like raw anymore. Valixsys, as far as I'm concerned, you can come back at full hit dice or at full hit points. But I would like you to expend all of your hit dice. So it'll take you at least 2 full rests to get your hit dice back. But Valixsys, yeah, will stand with the evidence of those acid burns, but your body is otherwise scarred rather than freshly wounded. And you will again have those memories, kind of how we've discussed things, to understand what your time unconscious basically was versus what the rest of the group would have experienced here. Sounded like a national weather warning.
Yeah, as soon as I hit the button, that alarm went off, and now I don't remember what I was about to say.
Yeah, so again, it's been ages since you've really like understood this place. So kind of waking up on any level, if you're the first one to speak, you should be rather surprised to see what you're seeing.
Yeah, I think Brannick would, kind of after he gets over kind of the shock of the ice cracking and seeing Valixsys standing there again, we just Valixsys, are you all right?
Valixsys would just kind of stand up slowly and just look around, almost like in a dazed, like she's not sure where she's at or or how y'all are still here around, almost as if she's experienced something like she's expected y'all to be long gone or dead yourselves. And she just kind of just looks at you each, kind of with a stare that shows that she's there, but she's still not quite aware of what's entirely happened 100%.
He's obviously been traumatized, perhaps in time.
How did you do that trick with the ice? But for sure, once that thing swallowed you.
What trick with the ice?
There would still be large blocks, like quarters almost of this ice, kind of all around the Valixsys, and kind of like comes to your attention as they bring it up to like recognize that this ice is surrounding you. To your perspective, this ice would be melting normally. It could be any other ice from this place. You've seen plenty of kind of signs of clear ice in other areas. All of that would kind of rush back perfectly fine and like fast to you upon seeing this. All of you others would recognize that when Brannick brings up the ice, you'll see that those like quarters of it are already melting. Maybe a little bit too fast. There's not much cause for ice to melt in a place like this, and you can already see that this is like glistening with liquid, maybe starting to pool up around its base where it's touching like other ice. Not much, but it's like actively melting.
Greta will kind of gesture to it as even as it's kind of almost evaporating. When we finally killed that thing and to extricate you, ice was covering you. I just assumed you would last ditch defensive get yourself from the thing.
She would kind of would look around at the ice as it melts and kind of fiddle with her fingers. I'm honestly not sure. I've I have no idea or recollection of any kind of spell or spell that I may have casted. And as she continues to look around, perhaps I got lucky. Or maybe it was something that this creature ate long ago that protected me. Who knows? But I guess it's good to be back.
So Brannick will kind of brow furrow a bit, kind of intrigued. Puzzly can't answer right now, but he'll finally kind of give almost like a little shake of his head almost to himself, and then kind of nod and try and give like a small smile towards Valixsys and well, whatever the reason. Glad you're back with us.
Me too. Though I don't. Oh, I guess. Should we continue moving on with what we were, or whatever it is we were doing?
Seemed the thing to do. Yes, nothing left here to keep our interest. Theme.
With that, but just kind of gathers her things, reaches down, picks up her spell book and staff, and proceeds to walk from the room.
And Brannick will do the same, start making his way back out towards the kind of the junction with the idea of, I guess, starting west.
So if you are starting to move out of that area, like moving back towards the north a little bit is where it gets narrowest, and then that area does open back up. If we have whatever light source we have been using, you guys can kind of see this next area as soon as you shine light into it and kind of gaze off into that direction. There's going to be kind of a sparkle of light, and you're going to see as the orange glow of the torch starts to shine through this room, and there's just a like kaleidoscope spread of this orange. And very quickly, I need, effectively, as each of you looks into this room, I need you to make a constitution saving throw. With light, basically, with the ability to see in this room, there is an infinite regress of mirrors that are reproducing like a vision of yourself. So you are seeing like the thousand eyes of a fly, kind of focused in on um, effectively like wherever you look, it's kind of like looking back at you, bouncing you back. So, Fen, you will be poisoned. Brannick, you will be poisoned. What that is essentially here is just having your movement speed. It is looking for that effect of kind of vertigo where your inner ear, your brain, and kind of like your nasal cavities almost like go out of whack. You feel stupid, insanely drunk, not in like making bad choices, but the inability to kind of keep your body like focused and attentive almost, as these lights are just reflecting. You can make out that there is a way out of this area beyond, but you end up finding walking itself difficult in its own right. Um, Let me get um, a dexterity check, kind of walking through that room. And do this at disadvantage. So it's gonna be pretty easy for Valixsys to like walk through this room, keeping things kind of focused. In the long run, that's gonna be gone pretty soon here, Brennick. You don't have to worry about it like that. It's going to take Fen and Brennick longer to actually kind of pass through here. But effectively, like, this is kind of like 2 to 5 minutes almost to like navigate through this. It's kind of like a hall of mirrors, like in a little haunted house. At times, while the two of you are going through this area, you are going to start to hear kind of cackles and laughter. And at some point, as the glass kind of starts to give way, you are going to see like your own image start to meld into this bloody maw. And we're going to actually jump back into a combat here, as out of the ice is going to leap this dog-like creature that is covered in blood and has a long, like protruding snout biting out at you. And we're going to see who that is in a moment. So let's go for something kind of like that as you guys are stumbling through this room. And we are going to see what's that? Ben, you've definitely got the highest dexterity. Yeah, so it's going to be Brennick who is going to see this creature. And it is going to leap out at you and make a bite and or try to claw you and then try to bite out at you. So, claw, bite. Should have 2 solid hits there. What's your AC right now? On Brennick? It's normally 13.
Oh, normally 13, 16 with mage armor.
Okay, it's 16 with mage armor these days. Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's unblockable. It is going to sink into you with its claws and deal 12 piercing damage to you. and it is going to grapple you, and that will restrain you. As it tries to grab onto you, it's going to try to bite into you. My bad. And the bite still hits like that. It's going to deal another 7 piercing damage to you, and I need a Constitution saving throw from you. Excellent. So you will follow right afterwards as it bites out at you. What would you like to do?
So the first thing, Brannick, is this thing kind of grapples around him and kind of claws and bites into him. He's looking pretty rough. He's going to kind of like restrained, kind of like wiggling his fingers and stuff. He's gonna cast Misty Step to get away. Basically out towards the entrance here. And kind of as he's kind of reappearing in this kind of like silvery mist back here, he's going to kind of be in the process throwing out his hand, launching a firebolt at creature.
You roll a d20 for me, please. Gotcha. And then roll the spell attack for the firebolt. Solid hits. What?
God. So far on damage dice, it's 4 1s and 2 2s.
Yeah, that's insanity right there. Anything else from you? Otherwise, we will move over to Valixsys.
How come I got skipped in the first round?
I am starting with the creature because it is basically stepping out of these mirrors.
Okay.
Yeah, Brannick just backing up a bit more, and that's it.
Sorry, Valixsys, you're up.
All right, so seeing this creature, Valixsys is actually going to hit it with a. Let's see, where's that? Ray of Sickness at level 3.
Gotcha. Ray of Sickness doesn't actually give it the poison condition, though, right? That is just poison damage.
1 second, let me take a look.
That'll take us to Fen, unless you would like to move away, which you to.
Okay, it says poison damage, and then must make a Constitution saving throw on a failed save. It is also poisoned until the end of your next turn.
What would you like to do, Fen?
Okay, so Fen is going to unarmed strike with a kick to the jaw. And I'm going to apply a stunning strike to that.
Going to see as its body freezes.
And I'm going to follow that up with the longsword.
You'll have advantage with these remaining attacks.
I'm going to apply Death Strike to that. One more unarmed strike. that'll activate as a parry and a turn.
Any thoughts about Valine? Is she just dropping some necrotic into this? What are y'all thinking?
Yeah, I think that seems the way to go.
Big ol' miss. Advantage is on all attacks, not just spell, or not just melee. I think that's still a miss. That'll take us back to it. You'll see some of its wounds close up, maybe from like the sword attack, realistically here. But otherwise, it's definitely still showing plenty of the actual damage of these attacks. And we'll go back around to Brent.
Yeah, Brannick still staying back. Seeing it frozen up, he is going to just throw another firebolt at it.
We'll smack into it. Burn it for another little bit of damage here. And anything else from you? Otherwise, to Valixsys.
Nope, that's it.
All right, so Valixsys is let's see. Oh crap. She is going to she's actually gonna hit her with a fireball level 3.
Oh wait, it's stunned.
Automatic fail.
Going back around to Fen. Any other movement from Valixsys, you are welcome to take it.
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay, so I'm going to longsword, arm strike, and flurry of blows, and I'm gonna tag on death strike to the first hit.
So Death Strike on that one. Yeah, with that, describe your crit destroying this creature as you would.
Nice. Yeah, so he just breathes in and kind of goes into a horse stance for a half a second, centering his key, and then lunges forward. His fist caves in his chest and pulls at his heart.
So as you remove the heart, this creature's flesh is going to start to disintegrate as if it is being consumed by fire. And within a few moments of this entire body burning up, the heart itself is going to catch fire in your hand. Do you hold it while it burns?
I'll take a big old bite out of it. I'm gonna drop it.
Gotcha. So as it falls into the ice, like on the ground here, it is going to burn about 10 or so inches down into the ice before you can't really see any more of the heart, and it seems to burn out into nothingness. Maybe with like a little bit of surprise on everybody's face, seeing this thing apparently burn to dust as its heart is removed. You'll have Professor Scott kind of just like tutting in, like, vampires are sometimes easier to kill than to stop coming back to life. Perhaps it would be wise for us to find where it is laid at rest, such that we might leave it to sleep with a stake in the heart.
Agreed. I'm getting tired of fighting these same vampires over and over. Might be easier to permanently end its life than to constantly fight these things repeatedly.
Yes, I'd certainly rather not see it come back. Brennick says he kind of comes back into the room. Yeah, he's looking a little woozy on his combined with the mirror effect, and now he's also kind of not in great shape.
This room would still be doing that as well, so there's still that like illness of a feel to being inside of here.
Yeah, so Brannick's kind of stumbling, trying to rejoin the others.
So there's kind of two different directions that you can take. It'll be a pretty big relief to be able to kind of like stare at that western wall and almost like hand over your head, so you're not seeing kind of like the light show that still happens kind of over your head, like you're blocking out the sun on a bright day. You can see that there is a hall that kind of like squeezes a little bit tighter as it is moving to your right. And then there seems to be like a little open area that starts to slowly descend further down to the ice to your left.
Valixsys will suggest they take the path to the left. It might lead us down to where this creature is, since it is headed further down into the ice.
If the heart or whatever that thing was went down, should we follow it? Try to, I don't know how long we have before that thing might rise again.
My bad. You could have reached into that hole and seen that it like went about 10 inches down. You could have, like, Valixsys could have like set her staff like into it a little bit. Fen sword. There's a lot of very simple ways you guys could have seen that burned like about 10 inches down into the ice.
Okay, gotcha. So gotcha.
So we could fish it out with a sword.
Oh, well, there's effectively nothing in there. It would have basically like burnt out just in the same
Okay.
way
Yeah,
the body was
disintegrated.
like consumed.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like kind of what I was going for there as well. The body looked like it was being burned and it was turning into ash. This actively caught fire. So I was definitely going for a little different like effect of that. And that's part of why like when dropped, it like burnt into the ice, but yeah, it effectively disintegrated. So the moving forward is one of those two ways. The going back, concerned about the heart, and the vampire is, you know, wherever you guys expect to go.
Well, we're going to need to hole up for a long rest at some point. Brannick, you don't look so good. And I've not feeling tip-top myself.
Agreed, but I think we should try to find this thing's lair and finish it before we think of have any idea where it could be, of course, but like west, you said, Valixsys?
Yes, further down will probably lead us to its lair. This path seems like it may go back to a room that we've already been in, or it may just be an open room. But if there's a path downwards further into the ice, that's probably the best place to go.
So sounds like down it is.
Gotcha. So as you all start to head down this path, it's going to wind around for a little bit. It's kind of turning and twisting. You start to head a little bit more kind of towards your left as you're bumping into the wall, kind of on your right, kind of moving in this direction, opening up a little bit further. It kind of opens into a small little room where you're going to not necessarily feel like an expanse around you. You can still kind of reach out to the sides and touch the walls of ice around you. But there's a comforting smell that's going to come over this area in the corridor that makes this spot a little bit kind of calming. And it's like a sweet, almost like a flower. And the weird thing actually finding out like all the different fruits around the world. I think for all Americans, pears are pretty normal. I'm not sure how like normal pears are around the world, but you're going to have kind of like the sweet aroma of pears in the air. By the time you all move a little bit beyond this spot, you're going to start to see a glade of frozen pink trees that are covered in pink pears.
Valixsys will kind of go to investigate the pears pretty much and get close enough to probably grab one and sniff it to see if it's investigate it and see if it's safe to eat or if it's something they should just leave be.
Roll a dexterity check for me. So you can climb up one of these trees, getting close enough and like out onto a branch where you can get your hands on a pear. If you'd like, you can kind of climb back up on top of that actual little tree branch, or you can hop back down and enjoy your pear. But smelling it, it smells like a sweet fruit. It is definitely cold. It is definitely frozen. I'm not sure if that has any reason to affect your desire to eat it.
And now she kind of she climbs up and sits on the branch and just starts to eat the pear.
So Brennick's mouth definitely is kind of watering a bit. It's been a while since had anything like fresh fruit, but he's leery. So he kind of watches Valixsys do all this, and then when Valixsys doesn't seem to immediately fall out of the tree after biting into the pear, Brennick will start forward, coming closer. Um, he might try to gather up a few of these, not not to immediately eat, but essentially kind of like gather some together.
How many would you like to pick up? Like, how much are you looking to carry if they're what, like 6 to 8 ounces a piece, like a half a pound, third of a pound a piece?
Yeah, so maybe like a couple pounds worth.
Gotcha. So yeah, you can write that down, and just put down that you have purple pears. I bet not sure why I described them as pink, but they are listed here as purple pears. I feel like that is a purple pink.
Purple pears. Sven will scoop up a couple as well. 6.
You as well can do that. You guys will see that each of these trees has probably like 6 or 10 pears on them. So as you kind of go through and take the first 6, you'll see that there's a few more. So it's kind of like you pick a few more, maybe all of the trees or all of the pears from the first tree, and like most of them from the next, before you see like beyond this little area. You can see that there are indeed like little walls in this area that kind of isolate things. They are not standing tall, but after a while you can kind of see that this area has about 6 of these trees. Eventually you are going to come to recognize that there is an entryway kind of along the side of where you're looking that is a very smooth tunnel that kind of like leads pretty sharply upward as it kind of continues, and you can kind of see signs of what I think at this point all of you can recognize as Remorazes do or have at some point come into this place in the past.
So seeing that, Brennick will kind of be on your guard in case those things return. Perhaps they enjoy these peaches as well. Um, he's kind of he's curious about these seeming like kind of uh, walls or separators. Do they look to be artificially constructed? Are they made of like ice or wood or stone?
Roll an investigation for me. So as you look over these, you're going to see that there's no actual signs of any like craft being done to these. You don't see any marks of culture where somebody shaped this stone. It's very quickly going to become apparent to you that this is that same kind of blackish, smooth metal that seems to be prolific in this area, and you're only seeing more and more of as you come to recognize this as essentially something that was magically constructed. This rock was formed in the shape of this building. What remains of this Chardolin was created to be in the form of this place. Very little of it remains at this point.
Okay. Yeah, so Brannick will share his suspicions with the others about kind of what this, like the magical construction, maybe some sort of hothouse or uh, some sort of structure to protect these things, or
So as he's kind of moving around, exploring that a little bit more, you guys will eventually come to recognize that the light is casting across four other ways into or out of this place. Three of them basically being off of kind of the southwestern wall or southeastern wall. Um, Two of them being kind of smaller cracks than like the crack that opens up to the center of those three, and then one of them kind of leading off the kind of southwestern area and into a little bit of an opening. The more I imagine a lot of these like things that seem like halls is actually if you imagine like the splitting of like rocks in big canyons or inside of an actual glacier, if the rocks just split by a few feet, and these are like very sharp, pointy like corridors between a lot of this ice. These things are, I think, much more um like the chance room rather than something like this that seems like more like created, or something like the Remoraz areas, which seem like almost that they're like melted in. You can kind of see like a lot of these halls that you're actually exploring are just almost like cracks in the ice.
so Brannick kind of looking around is for not sure why, but his kind of gaze is drawn to um it's the opening kind of directly south of him, so kind of um not the one more closely to heading to his right, but the one underneath. He's going to start that way.
So when you start to head in that direction, you are going to hear a voice in your head. The sound is going to make your nose think, or your brain think of kind of like sweet summer scents, kind of like Brennick's quintessential relaxed summer childhood day. And it's kind of like this scent is your personal favorite like smell recollection, and you're just going to kind of like recall this moment with this scent, and you're just going to hear in your voice or in your head, it's such a fine day, don't go yet.
So Brannick will kind of he'll stop, um, he almost like kind of like, even though, yeah, he like kind of like does this inhale, and he's kind of brought back to that, and then he's going to kind of he's going to turn back, kind of looking around at like some of the trees. Um,
Make a perception check. Can actually have everybody make a perception check here. I doubt Valixsys is going to roll twice over an 18, so I'm going to skip kind of waiting here. Fen, you are going to notice that as Brannock starts to head in this direction, when he starts to turn, kind of corner of your eye, you're seeing a very slender figure. I think as far as your mind would recall, this is like the kind of view of a nude woman walking by, just like crossing your view. I'm not sure what kind of monk Fen is on the level of whether that is an enticing thing or a torturous thing, but that's kind of like the thing that happens to your eye where you're almost going to like jump to recognize that, like, for a second there you saw like a naked woman walk past, and for all it's worth, you're kind of still like picking some of these fruits off of these trees, or just taking a moment in this glade, and you just kind of have that experience where like this like just flash across your eyes, but you almost like look in the same direction of where Brannock, his attention starts to focus. You don't have to go yet. You're not dangerous, are you? Like each time you hear the voice, like you look and you seem to like focus on one of the trees, and then you hear the voice come from another direction around you. And it takes a few moments. You hear a few different kind of like whispers from around you before, after a while, like with everybody just kind of like waiting and not reacting and not doing anything hostile, you're going to see after a moment where this slender figure kind of like steps from inside of one of these trees. You're going to see as like a twig almost like grows into a branch, and this branch becomes an arm, and you watch as it like splits off as another trunk kind of separates from this tree. And that like visual of watching a tree kind of grow instantly becomes this slender female who her hair kind of like flows across like leaves, and you can kind of see the same structure of these trees are how her body is formed. Her flesh is all covered in a very smooth kind of white bark like these. Her hair are these same kind of pink and purplish little flower, or not flowers, but little leaves, almost like semi-round leaves that kind of flow off of these trees. And she kind of steps out, and you can't recognize at first whether her body is a tree, if she turns from the tree, if she's creating another tree, but that's just kind of how she steps out of these trees. And as she kind of walks away from it, you'll see more or less this like tree clad female ahead of you, who stands about like 4 or so feet tall, um, being much shorter than everybody but Valixsys at this point. I've not had anyone kind to speak to for quite some time. You're not dangerous?
Not to you, fair lady of the wood. You grace us with your presence.
What language do you say that in? Are you speaking in common?
I'll try Elvish.
Gotcha. So when you speak out in Elvish, you're going to see for the first time as her lips actually move. And she is going to respond to you in Sylvan. Not quite Elvish, not quite not. As far as I'm ever concerned, I don't actually have your languages immediately in front of me. Yeah, so Sylvan to Fen and Valixsys sounds awfully elvish. This to me is like if you know any of the Romance language and you hear somebody speaking in Latin, or you hear somebody speaking in another one of the Romance languages. When you have a solid fluent understanding of Elvish, you don't hear what somebody's saying in Sylvan so much as you can kind of translate it. And it kind of gives you a sense of kind of the age of this creature. That it definitely is something that is kind of like almost, it's like almost pre-domesticated. Like it's never actually like likely met elves to actually have that like discourse that combines their languages properly. But most importantly, this is going to be where you notice that it is excited to speak to you. It has been communicating with you telepathically. The understanding actually reduces as it starts to speak in response to hearing Elvish. Um, but it will kind of continue conversation with you. Excited to kind of have your greeting. Yeah, I think it would offer any pears to Valixsys, seeing that you're the only one eating them. But she would also like come to you like handing you more, and she would hand you 5 more so that you were holding 6. You guys would all awkwardly kind of see as she's like looking over the pears that the other 2 have. It might seem weird at first before you recognize that she is thinking like, is 6 their favorite number? And she'll give 6 pears to Valixsys to make sure that Valixsys also has 6.
Valixsys accepts them graciously, and honestly, after finishing that first one, she decided to have one more, and she stored the others away.
Excellent. Yeah, so just write down that you've got those 4 more. And yeah, she's going to kind of smile as Valixsys continues to eat the pears and kind of like looking around at you all, like sitting on some of these walls, just kind of looking like, have you all come to stay? Would you like to live in the grove with me? We have plenty of pears. You can eat all you would like. And she'll kind of like reach out to one of the branches and like make a few flowers form. And over the next like minute or so, those flowers are going to kind of like wither away and fall off. And like a little pear bud is going to form. And after about 2 minutes or so, there's going to be like just another pear like along that little branch.
As idyllic as it sounds, my lady, unfortunately, we have pressing business to attend to. A vampire in one of these caverns must be dealt with.
You've come to play the dark one? And she'll kind of like almost like pull back a little bit and you see is like just almost instinctively the closest part of her body that's near a tree is kind of already reaching for one of these trees, and you can see as her body's kind of starting to become a part of the tree, and you see like a break where there's almost like a physical tree in between her body melding in, that's kind of growing off of this other one. And you've come to kill Tekalili.
You know the name of the one we're looking for? Would you happen to know where he is as well?
I cannot leave the grove. Don't leave. Don't go after that one. Stay here. You can hide in the grove. Just kind of like move through another tree and kind of like reaching out towards Brannick. You don't have to leave. There's so much we could talk about. You're from the outside? You could tell me. She kind of like looks up towards the ice and see like a forlorn like hope looking over towards Fen. Sunrises? You could tell me about the sunrises. You don't have to go.
And when she speaks to Brannick, is she still speaking in Sylvan, or does she switch to, because Brannick has not really been, he's been kind of observing, but since he is unable to understand the language, he's kind of
Outside of where I explicitly kind of said it like that, I would say most of this is still going to effectively be telepathic.
gotcha. Okay.
I
So
don't think she has any reason right now to recognize that Valixsys is understands Elvish and would understand her Sylvan. And very much so, like in the interest of trying to like convince you all not to go, she would be speaking to everybody, and that's where it is simply just like a telepathic understanding of her will.
You said you cannot leave the grove. Why is that?
Roll a history check for me. And this will just be Ben. I am found in these trees. They and I are one and the same. We are one of the last. I think we are the last trees of Yithrin. I can't hear the others. I haven't heard the others for so long. It's just I.
Last trees of Yithrin. And Valixsys would turn to Brennan and said, have you heard of those? Heard of that before? What? And then she turned back to the lady and asked, You said you're the last trees of Yithrin. What do you know what happened to the others?
I haven't heard from them in ages. Everything has been silent.
Take no joy in informing you that this is a broken and twisted place now. We cannot stay here, and I wish that we could help you to leave, but I don't know how.
There are strange, twisted creatures here to the south. And she'll kind of point towards the southwest, no wait, southeast of these little openings, kind of pointing off in that direction. There's twisted, dark creatures there. They followed the grayskins of your kind here. They're off in that direction. There's creatures here. You can fight creatures here in the grove.
Tempting though your offer is, I'm afraid my companion is right, but perhaps if we are able to deal with this creature, might permit us to return and visit you.
You don't have to go. You should stay. Return now. You are welcome. You are most welcome to return. Right now, you can stay.
Valixsys was gonna hop down from the tree and begin to look at the entrances, the exits that they have, and she'll start to walk towards one. Look, as she says, look, unfortunately, we can't. We do not belong down here for long periods of time. I do apologize that you are here, but we will not be able to stay.
You have magics. You cannot sustain yourselves. I have food. Can nourish you.
Unfortunately, we have undertaken responsibilities that are beyond just our needs and our wants. As much as it would be a pleasure to do so, we cannot. But I think at that, Fenn's kind of going to try to give Brannick the side eye and
Yeah, so Brannick will kind of catch his eye. You can see like a part of him is kind of tempted to, given all they've kind of already been through, and like the um he's almost like some small part of him is like, would it really be so bad to, but then he will kind of catching Fenn's eye is kind of enough to kind of, he pushes that kind of back, and kind of tries to give like a small kind of nod towards Fen. and then he'll kind of maybe look off towards the direction that um, the tree creature had kind of gestured off to, and almost kind of give a little nod in that direction. Again, towards Fen and Valixsys.
At the happened down from the tree, Valixsys started going towards the exit, where the creature pointed off to.
So wait, is everybody heading towards that southern area right now?
Yeah, so Brannick will kind of be trying to like make, again, apologies, like my friend said we cannot say, but he will kind of, as he's kind of like saying it, he will be slowly starting to, make his way down towards where Valixsys is headed.
Farewell, Lady of the Wood. Hopefully we will meet again. Thank you for sharing your bounty. And Fen will start walking as well.
So again, kind of like yelling out to you. She's like, "You don't have to go," and she kind of follows you like along into that area. And she's going to kind of say to you, Howlin. Oh, I have her name right here. Hathawin. Halwyn was a perfectly good name. But when you kind of say that to her, like Lady of the Wood, she'll be, Hathawin, you don't have to go. The strange creatures are right there. You can stay here and fight creatures. So as you all approach that room, you are going to see a small, like, alcove of ice that kind of clears off and opens up in each direction, and just kind of bringing light across it. You're very quickly going to see at least one big, large, like, kind of shiny orb that is going to, like, catch the light, and as it turns towards you, like, you'll see this kind of flash around this globe that's approximately like the size of your whole skull. And you kind of see as this like globe of this eyeball kind of flashes with the light. And once it like starts to directly look straight onward towards you, you're going to see is like the darkness of the eye is like consuming the light. It doesn't show the same kind of like um light over this creature once it's actually like looking towards you. Are you all going to like pull back the light and take a moment to reassess now that you kind of understand a creature is looking at you? Or does that make you more curious to see like if like what the light does now that this creature's kind of seen it?
And honestly, it makes Valixsys a bit curious.
So if you kind of reach in a little bit further, kind of like back around the corner to look a little bit closer, you'll see that this creature is like already moved off. And as you're kind of like looking into that area, you now see just kind of like an open area of stalagmites and stalactites, like any other area in this place. Um, if you start to move in closer, you'll start to see signs that there's a few of these creatures. They're pretty good at avoiding the light, but kind of taking a moment standing in that central area, every once in a while you see like the top of an eyelid just kind of like peeking up over, peeking around, And as soon as it kind of catches a little bit of a light around this, like 10% of kind of the dome of this eyeball, you see as it kind of like shrinks back out of sight. And there's three of them off to the right, and there is one of them off to your left. And you can like kind of actively see the one off to the left that seems to be like this eye that's coming slightly into view is like more erratic but frequently happening. You can see that it's kind of like looking towards you, hiding, looking towards the others across the room, hiding, looking towards you, towards the others, hiding. And it keeps kind of like popping up over the next moment. And you can kind of see like this one to your left is like looking almost as if it's about to like run across this room and try to get to the others.
Brannick is going to move up towards behind Valixsys here. Does he kind of catch this exchange, or what's happening? Or would he to be?
I mean, at the point where Valixsys is like inside of it, you could kind of catch things by getting like up there by Valixsys. Without taking too much further into the room, it's probably limited to two people seeing it like that right now.
They seem perhaps afraid of the light. Valixsys, perhaps we should step back a bit. Thing seems to be that's looking to join the others. And Brandon doesn't think because these things look like they're just kind of like eyeballs. You said, right?
You haven't really seen a full creature. At this point, you all have seen kind of outlines of these eyes. Maybe little bits of kind of like this, like off, kind of like whitish, uh, flesh that's kind of spiky around the top of it. But essentially, most of these have been like just this eye kind of like poking up into view and then hiding. So you've not really gotten a good look at the anatomy of this thing so much as kind of the idea that it is predominantly like an eye stalk.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, this is the step back. Like she covers the light a bit to kind of allow the creature to be able to run past to get to the others that it's trying to reach.
So I'd like the two of you to make a wisdom saving throw, please. I like over the next few moments, as you two kind of like back away and kind of look to see what these creatures are going to do. You're almost going to hear kind of like horrific screams like yelled into your head. And like one of them is just going to be kind of this long, high pitched roar of uh, just kind of like the feel of destruction. And you can just kind of hear it as like the sound of maybe like a young child injured. And it's a horrific thing to hear. It's like not audibly happening, but it's inside of your head. you're feeling kind of like a recollected state. As this thing kind of like pierces into your mind. And then Valixsys, you're kind of going to hear just like gibberish words that are coming off to you as like almost draconic, and you're trying to recognize like what the draconic words would mean, and you can kind of like pick out like four words like very unrelated to each other, where you can kind of like pick up like um almost like a reference to sort of like a library or like a compendium, the like construction and like damage or like the architecture built for kind of like these abstract concepts in these words that you're pulling apart, but you can't quite find what sort of reason that they have for being the words that you actually like pick up from this. I mean, for Valixsys right now, the number of telepathic things that are happening are cancer inducing. Um, but yeah, you kind of have that like moment as you two are like stepping away, and as your heads are kind of like in this little bit of like a haze, you're going to see as the creature kind of like runs right across you. It is relatively humanoid. It runs almost as if it is falling over in front of itself, almost as if it's about to start putting down its front arms as if they are legs, but otherwise has a pretty humanoid shape to it. It's a little bit taller than a kobold, definitely a little bit shorter than a humanoid or than a human. Has a long neck that leads up to that eye, that otherwise has very little to kind of resemble anything humanoid, because it's kind of just like a neck that leads up to this big blinking eye. Um, yeah, and it kind of just flashes across you, almost like again, it's like stumbling across the ice before all of a sudden it's like back to silence. And over the next few moments, you probably see those eyes poking up a little bit less.
The Brennick is kind of gonna try. He's gonna start like slowly backing back out. Sure what these things are, but they more reclusive than seem to be attacking us.
The female's going to step out of the closest tree and kind of reaching out for Brennick is just going to say to you, "See, you've already returned. You have chosen the grove. You're going to stay here. We can be together. I can keep you all well fed. We can stay in the grove."
So Braddock's kind of like still shaking his head from like the. So did he hear that same like screeching in his head, or is that more in Valixis's?
My bad. Yours would have been the screeching, what you heard in your head. Valixsys was like more kind of put together like four abstract draconic like concepts.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So Brennick's kind of still shaking his head, almost like trying to like he's trying to clear that out of his mind when he hears like another voice, the woman's voice intruding into his mind again. And he kind of almost like stiffens and kind of turns and um almost like sheepish expression kind of comes on his face and no, I'm sorry, we still can't stay. And he starts almost like kind of like backing away towards a different um like backing away towards his west or to his left.
Valixis kind of follows out as well. She kind of backs away and shaking her head, looking down. She's like rubbing her head a little bit, and she starts to follow them outwards, towards the next exit.
Intent on following suit there, Fen? Gotcha. So, Hathwin's going to kind of like clinging onto probably Fen last year, kind of reaching out and you're kind aren't friendly. Don't go. Stay here. Things are happy in the grove. Don't go. The elves don't. I I can help you. I know about great and powerful things. We have a lot to talk about. As you all kind of walk off into that direction, you're going to follow this winding path. There's points where the ice kind of cracks open into larger areas where you can kind of stretch out a little bit. There's points where you have to like tighten up real hard to kind of squeeze through. And Valine behind you is just now kind of getting back to a rather normal kind of medium size where she has to really focus on her breathing and keep good control over like not breathing with her chest and kind of breathing out and very controlled with her stomach, being able to slowly slide through some of these areas where eventually you guys are going to come. It starts to open up a little bit larger, and you're going to come to a point where there's kind of like a three-way um, T in the road. You've come from behind. You have a direction that seems to lead off to the right, as well as a direction that seems to lead off to your left. Each the right and the left choices go a little bit more. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to use cardinal directions at this point. But you guys kind of have like the choice at this point, kind of go like up and to your right or up and to your left.
What did you say, Fen? Left is right?
Path on the left will bring you luck. Path to the right will give you fright.
Brannick will nod, and so he'll start. He'll head towards the left uh, direction.
On this map, you guys should see yourselves on the like lower right hand side right now.
Gotcha. Yep. So it's the up where Brannick is now. Is that the T that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Brannick is gonna start kind of after checking in with Fen on that, he'll start head to the left, up and left.
So as you, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, whoever that was.
Oh, you good? You good? Go ahead.
So as you pass a little bit further into that direction, it's going to be just like 20, 30 more feet after like 100 or so feet of progressing down this area. It's going to be like 520 more feet from that area where you're going to see a smooth black like stone dome ahead of you, and it extends up from about 5 feet above the ground, like above the ice, all the way towards like the ceiling, and you can kind of see that there are points where the ice is like shattered and opened up, and the ice or this dome is still complete. That the dome is kind of like cut through the ice, and it parts have like separated and pulled away where you're walking. Other parts are still kind of like consumed by the dome. That you can kind of see like this dome passes smoothly into the ice, like just a little bit to your right and just a little bit to your left. The actual base below the dome seems to be very much the same stone, but it is about. Oh man, I think I described the dome too soon here. So let me expand this view a little bit more so you can kind of understand the dome. Um, so the dome should be further in from where you're at. This should be like the stone embankment around that's about 5 feet tall. It is smooth in a circle, or at least the circle around the ice that you can see right here. It is incredibly smooth around the actual like ring around it, but everything below it is not like rough hewn stone with a closer inspection. This is the same type of thing, and this is also the kind of thing that Scott kind of is an explication horror about, is recognizing that this is once again Chardolin that has been sculpted to make this what is going to be more and more apparently like this massive, almost like auditorium entrance kind of thing. You have that 5 foot step up onto what is this big open platform. The dome is still a little bit more inside to the west of you, but it is like visible and you can see it cutting through the ice. But once you get close enough on top of this, you can see that there is a statue of a wizard who is looking towards the dome. Their back is effectively um, to you right now. And yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way to understand that.
Yeah, so Brannick is going to move and try to climb up onto the this platform. He's kind of drawn, seeing more man-made, or at least, um, yeah. So he's gonna move to climb up.
Valixsys would actually follow him over there and up towards the that you're examining it as well.
So as you look a little bit more over this area, you're going to see like the dome kind of continues off to the east, or to the west rather, as it kind of flows around this area. There's a narrower section in the ice that kind of leads towards another one of these wizards, who's a statue looking towards this smooth dome of Chardolin. The floor, once you kind of step on it, almost like has a resonating kind of grounding effect to you. You can kind of feel like a soft hum in this room as your feet are like flat on this flooring, and you can kind of like feel like the power of this Chardolin below your feet. It almost feels like sound is a little bit different. Like if you hold like a finger to like the base, like the soft spot of your ear, you can kind of like manipulate that vibration as everything's coming into your eardrum.
So as Brannick approaches the dome, do they see any sort of way inside, or is it solid?
So from this area, looking at it, you can see like a smooth section of this dome goes up about 30 or so feet into the air, where it starts to like cut into some of the stalagmites. And yeah, looking over this area, there's no like crack, there's no flaw in this dome from what you can see.
He's gonna like walk closer to it, and like just kind of like looking at it, and then gonna turn back, look towards the statue, and maybe I think he's gonna move in to take a little bit of a closer look at this the statue of a wizard. Um, is there looking for any sort of plaque or something to signify like who this might be a statue of, or does it look like stylized or more lifelike? Is it like sitting on a plinth or a base?
I think the wizards would be on top of a base, maybe like a foot or two, so they are certainly like a little bit taller than yourselves. Um, Not gonna see too much more to notice any writing about them. They're looking maybe a little bit upward and not necessarily like straightforward at the dome.
Veronica will turn towards Valixsys and Fen. What do you think? Should we continue try to find some? Is there some way inside?
Yeah, we should. I would much like to check and see. Um, Definitely check the statues a bit more. See if there's any switching around them or anything. Check them. We could check them on the walls as well. If there's any way inside. Worst case scenario, we might have to just break in through the roof or see if there's an entrance on the bottom part of it.
So while you all are like investigating and looking over this wizard, you are going to hear kind of like a little bit of like wind, but you don't feel any wind on your skin at all. And I need everybody make a dexterity saving throw, please. So you all are going to see as a stalactite is going to like crack away from the ceiling, and it kind of whistles down from above as it's falling 20, 30 feet and smashing down into Valine. And when it smashes into Valine, you're going to see as the icicle like opens up into this like 5-star pattern, and instead of just like piercing into her, falling into her, it like turns into this star, and it is just going to engulf around her as it kind of wraps around her flesh. And you kind of see this like sheen of blue as this creature like covers her, no longer looking at all like an icicle. Looking up, you all would see that there are plenty more stalactites in this room. Seeing this creature like smash down on her, you can kind of see that it is not actually a icicle type creature. What kind of thoughts do you all have as this creature kind of ambushes Valine?
Valixsys will kind of, after noticing that they are not just stalagmite, she would release a fireball in the area to catch as many as she can within it.
Gotcha. You're looking to fireball the ceiling?
Yes.
How about from Brennick or from Fen? What are the two of you thinking?
I think Brannick is kind of, as he sees this thing kind of hurtling down, and as he realizes it's not just a falling icicle, he's kind of gonna like glance up at the ceiling, but then I think his immediate reaction is going to turn to try to blast the thing off of Valine that's kind of come down at her.
Gotcha. And Fen?
Yeah, Fen will follow suit and draw his sword.
Gotcha. So let me get initiatives from y'all here. What the fuck? Initiative crits. Alrighty. Fen, so this thing has like dropped down onto Valine. She's kind of standing just behind you, maybe a few feet taller than you, so you could kind of still like punch her from up above. It's not going to be like a big difference, but it would like have like an odd sort of cover if you kind of attack it from above right now.
So easy to hop over the side to get on level ground.
Yeah, it's kind of silly for me to even make the distinction. It's asking you to move 1 foot to the right, basically. Yeah,
I'll hop over.
that distance for you is nothing. So
Okay.
you can strike out at this creature.
So again, I'm gonna unarmed strike first and apply stunning strike to my first hit, whether that's the fist or the sword, doesn't matter. First hit, I'm gonna apply stunning strike. DC Con 15.
Yeah, so as you strike into this thing's flesh, you're going to see where it's like active camouflage has a very weird quality where the moment it ceases moving and you stop seeing like its undulations like adjusting to like Valine trying to like continue to kind of grapple around her body, as soon as it stops moving, you're going to see as these like almost peels of this like banana type creature kind of thing are going to solidify into this like blue state. Looks just like any other icicle. only it's now like in this like star, and some of them are frozen as like their teeth are being pulled out of her flesh, so it can try to like readjust to like slap further down onto her body. So you have a very unique kind of view of this ice like state where when it stops moving it looks like any other ice that you see around you. But yeah, that first punch is going to freeze the creature. What would you like to do from there?
Follow that up with the sword.
You've got advantage with the sword strike here. Another solid strike.
I'm going to apply Death Strike to that as well.
I think we got you at 20 damage here.
And then I will Flurry of Blows for 2 more unarmed strikes.
So with that first one, you strike into it, and you can feel that not only does this thing take on the qualities like looking like ice, it also has stone-like skin that is quite tough on the outside. And while you punch into it, you feel the effects still flowing through this creature's ki. And it is going to kind of like thud to the ground, as you can see like the tensing of muscles are in like final death throes as this thing is going to fall dead to the ground before it will eventually go limp 6 or 10 seconds from now. But right now, it's like very much still held stiff in that form of how it was trying to consume Valine.
That will activate Agile Parry and end a turn.
So, Brannick, you've seen Fen kind of fight the one off of Valine. You would still be casting that fire bolt. But do you have any thoughts on what you do once you have this spell in hand?
Yeah, kind of almost as he's almost like shouting to Valine, like, watch out, as he's kind of like holding out his hand, but then as he sees Fen kind of just explode into a flurry of blows, he's going to try to essentially like alter his trajectory, and he's just gonna shoot I think again returning his attention to the ceiling, he's going to shoot up at he's almost going to try and pick like an icicle or what something that looks like an icicle at random.
Make a spell attack at disadvantage, please. So as you blast into one of these icicles and kind of start to expect to see like drips of water or ice kind of shatter, you're going to see as this stalactite is going to kind of open in the same way as it like unfurls these teeth, and it's going to start to sink from the ceiling as that too is going to be falling from the ceiling here.
I think he's going to be just like moving a bit almost back, but that's yeah.
This one is going to fall towards Valixsys. It should hit, and it's going to deal 13 bludgeoning damage to you as it falls into you, and you're going to see these like teeth kind of unfurl at the last moment so it can try to consume as much of you as it may with this first blast into you. And that would then take you to Valixsys. This room is large. In general, it is not terribly too high up. Pretty much the furthest places, when you looked around this place before, your fireball could hit this entire room. You've got this creature falling on top of you, and you've already started casting the fireball to blast the ceiling. What's Valixsys going to do when you have something else trying to eat you?
She is
Did we
not
lose you
fond.
there?
Oh no, I mean she is not fond of becoming another creature's meal, so she immediately releases her fireball.
Gotcha. Roll. Yeah, just roll damage normal. All right. So as you release this fireball, you're probably not going to actually see the result of this. But as it kind of like travels up towards as much of a ceiling as this place has, you're going to detonate it. You can pretty much cover this entire room. There's going to be big like blast outs in each of the directions as you all are in like a contained space. You all are going to hear as 3 more of these creatures are going to thud from the ground as they fall from above, but inertly will smash down on the ground. And unlike the icicles that fall and actually like shatter across the ground, these just thump with a kind of dull, dead stone-like thump as they hit the ground. But currently, that gives you guys kind of a little bit of a grave of 4 of them on the ground, 1 of them on Valixsys, and probably half to 3/4 of the stalactites or stalagmites on the ceiling have been either destroyed or dropped. My bad, and it'll go to Fen.
So is there still one that is covering Valine?
Nope, you stunned and killed that one. It would have fallen to the ground. It would still be like stiff in how it's like frozen from your strike.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was taken care of. I guess then he will leap up to the level again and attempt to attack the one that's on Valixsys' head.
Fist first. Are you going for a stunning strike or just going into it?
I am going to. Yeah, I'm just going to go into it. I'm going to use it for flurry of blows, and I might apply a death strike. We'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Longsword strike is a solid hit.
And I will
That's
apply
the death strike.
Yeah, that's the death strike.
And then the first of the unarms, solid strike. Second as well.
And I will end my turn there.
Gotcha. So no flurry.
No flurry.
Yeah, so I think 1, 2, 3, you can basically do the same to this creature, where you like cut into it, a few well placed punches. You're able to kind of tear this thing apart and kind of like almost unzip the teeth out of Valixsys' scales as this creature's like trying to bite into her, and it will go back up to Brennick. You're kind of in that same situation. You still see stalactites above. You don't see anything moving that is distinguishing itself as other.
Yeah, so Brannick is kind of moving around the statue again, looking up. He is essentially still got his arm out. He's holding a firebolt if he sees something above him start to move, he will release it at that.
Gotcha. So as you're kind of like scanning around to the roof, you're going to see as there's like a little bit of a flutter in a stalactite, and it's going to start to drop to the ground. You can roll to shoot at it. Solid hits, 6 more damage to it. It is going to fall towards Valixsys. It's going to smash across the ice beside you, and you're just going to see this like dull like thud of this thing as it's almost like connecting its jaws back together, and it's going to look on the ground as if it's just like a fallen piece of ice. And that would take us to Valixsys.
Send Valixsys looks up and scans the area for another creature. When she spots what she believes is the creature, she throws a magic missile at it. At second level.
That's an interesting one. You don't know it's a target, making it disadvantaged to strike. But you're shooting a spell that automatically hits.
So this is a 44, right?
I believe second level is 4d4. Let me have you roll. I feel like an insight check. Yeah, so you are going to release your missiles. You are going to watch as like 1, 2, 3, 4, they strike into this in the same point. And as this seems to like crack off of the roof as if it were any old icicle, it's going to start to fall, unswirling its like jaw. It is going to fall for the lean again. It is going to hit and deal another 21 piercing damage as another of these creatures kind of drops around and onto the lean. And I think that takes us back around to Fen, where there is now one on the lean. As well as you guys saw one fall to the ground. But it's hard to figure out what ice on the ground is ice and what ice on the ground is something else.
With seeing that, Fenn's gonna hop down and attack the one that's on Valine. I'm out of key, so it's just straight sword, 2 unarmed attack.
Gotcha. And you said this is the one that's on Valine?
Correct.
So the long sword, you're going to get a solid slash through this thing. With the other strikes, the way you connect to it are just going to kind of deflect off of that same like odd stone-like surface of this ice creature, whatever it is. And you just kind of have these two like null strikes as you punch into it with your fist. I
That'll
think
be
you'd
it.
still see solid signs that that creature is about to die. Oh, no, my bad. That's not the same one that Valixsys hit. It's probably still also about to die. Yeah, I think that cut is pretty solid, like kind of the type of thing where you like slash through the top of this stalk where it was dropping from the ceiling, and this has not been a part that's like opened up with the jaw. This is almost like the more like native kind of part of that creature. It's got a pretty horrific wound to that. But my bad. What were you thinking there, Fen?
No, that was it. End of turn.
Gotcha. So that one's going to take us to Brennick.
Yeah, so as a couple more of these things drop, I think Brannick's instinctively backing away towards the dome as these things like drop towards Valixsys and Valine. And I think he's going to keep firing at the one that he had hit, that he had first seen. So the one I think it landed and missed Valixsys originally. So he's going to attack that one.
Gotcha. Roll a perception here for me. Gotcha. You still got a pretty solid eye on it. You can make a attack here, just straight.
That'll miss, I think.
Yep, that's gonna be a miss.
Of course, finally roll decent damage. But yeah, I think that's backing away a little bit like that. He might even back a little bit further, and that's all for Brannick.
So as you all see these creatures in a little bit more native of an experience here, you are going to come to notice that they don't do anything else. They are like one of them is very clearly hiding on the ground as if it is fallen ice. One of these creatures is still like currently trying to consume Valine, but it's just like slowly like edging these like lips around it, trying to like kind of pull her further towards like that central stalk. But that creature is like bleeding out. It's just going to go back around to Valixsys here. What thoughts do you all have? Don't hear anything from you, Valixsys, if you are starting to respond.
Oh, sorry. Valixsys kind of looks around, and she, with the ones that are there, to get any remaining ones from the ceiling, she throws an ice knife up at the ceiling and to expose any other creatures that may be up there.
Gotcha. Roll that spell attack at disadvantage. So you kind of like fling this knife up into the ceiling, and it kind of clings off of some of the ice. You see as this like explosion of ice kind of freezes into other parts, and doesn't seem to be any more movement from up there. Any other movement from you? Otherwise, it's going to Fen.
Yeah, that's it.
And so Valine is clear of the creature or consumed still?
It's still on her, part of what I was getting at is like once they attach to you, this thing is really just like trying to digest you by you not doing anything to get it off of you.
Gotcha. So I'm going to assist in removing the creature? Or do I need to attack it?
You could actually do either. If you want to start to remove it, that's perfectly fine. If you want to do a strength check for that, I could see athletics if you've got that. Probably can't do an acrobatics though. I'd say athletics is probably your go-to. Yeah, so it's got a strong enough like attachment to Valine that you actively have to struggle against this creature. But you can slowly, in the same way you kind of peeled the one off of Valixsys, all of its teeth are kind of inward facing. So it's just this like slow process of like muscling back one of these five like lips that it wraps around and then pulling off another and kind of keeping those like taut against itself. You almost peel back the whole creature and you're able to pull it off of Valine. You see is pretty quickly those like lips that kind of form these five wings start to kind of solidify back into ice where you're like holding an icicle in your hand. Not cold, it still feels more like stone, but like the look of it here is ice. So, assuming you guys like put in some effort to kill these two things, otherwise you could like scatter them, but it doesn't take you too much longer to basically recognize that there's perhaps some advantage in just making sure all of the ice that's on the floor here is not something that's going to be anything other than ice, and it can do that in smaller forms. Um, but like, what do you guys have to? What kind of thoughts do you have mulling around as you guys are like looking over this scene? And theoretically, Fenn has one of these things in his hands.
Yeah, so Brannick is almost like and like hold it out, watch out, and he wants to try and essentially blast it out of Fenn's hand as he's holding it with a firebolt.
Are you like waiting for Fenn to agree? Or are you about to like drop a firebolt towards this creature?
No, he's kind of like saying like Fenn, and then like almost before Fenn would probably have a chance to react, he's trying to thread the needle, and it just blasted out of his hand.
Gotcha. For what it's worth, the two of you were right about the same dexterity here. Let me just have a. Let's go for a D6 from Brennick, and I'm gonna do a D8 from Fenn right now. Because he's probably faster than you most of the time. But let's see if he rolls a 1 through 4. Yeah, let me get that spell attack. And the damage. Yeah, so by the time like Fenn is like admiring the fact that this thing is turned back into an icicle in your hand, it is just going to get blasted by this fire, and it's going to kind of explode into a million pieces of rock. It clinks across the ice as if it were rock. You were just holding it, and you see it immediately looks like ice. And by the time it scatters across the floor here, you can't actually tell the difference between the ice on the floor and the rock. You would have to touch every piece of what just shattered to know whether it was the creature or not. So while you guys make a little bit of sense of these creatures, let's take a little bit of a break here. Come back at like 6:20, 20 minutes after the hour here. And we'll kind of like start a bit more of like the wrap up phase. See where you guys kind of move forward from here. We got about 40 minutes left once we come back.
I'm ready.
Yep, sounds good.
Anybody back right now? Have you had any other questions that kind of creeped up about what happened earlier, Valixsys?
With what we talked about, or with the
The resurrection. Just because, I mean, it's all still like a lot beforehand. I expect if anything comes up, like even this week, you're always perfectly welcome to ask any other questions about kind of how that played off.
not at all. My thing right now is trying to figure out how to, with her with her experience with death and everything, and being resurrected, how to actually play her character now, because because the way that I feel like that would work is that it would have definitely had some effect on her personality and the way she acts toward treats treats people and objects now.
Yeah, definitely part of how I see part of that would almost be an odd, like, wisdom of ages, because you kind of have the experience of what happened. What I've done. Yeah, I think it leaves a lot open because there's definitely a lot going on. Some of it won't last nearly as long as other things, but like all of you guys right now are still having, um, you know, some of those creepy instances with creatures still like flashing across your eyes. There's a lot of crazy shit that's going on in this place, and for a reason.
Right.
Magic can be a little bit wonky. Nice. Should have everybody back. We can kind of jump back in. Just kind of had some of these stalactites falling from above. They like turn into creatures in the air and try to wrap their teeth and jaws around you. Are otherwise pretty inactive. You all are still on top of this like large Chardolin stone plinth, and there's the Chardolin orb, basically the left side of this screen. What would you all like to continue forward with?
Yeah, Brannick wants to see, um, like after we've kind of seems like we've uh, gained a respite from some of these creatures, wants to check and see how heavy they are. If he can find, identify one that, I guess more by feel than by look. He's trying to think like, if there's more of these things, if they perhaps there's some way they can kind of like almost thinking like deflect, like keep something above them to deflect them, but he wants to see how heavy they are, if that would be effective.
Let me get a medicine or a investigation or a survival from you.
They do investigation.
Gotcha. So, looking over the one that Fen got first, that was stunned when it was dead or when it was killed, that one is kind of like looks relatively like a peeled banana right now, where it has like these 5 like wing like feather like appendages that kind of close off into the spike of a stalactite. All of these look like ice, but you can see that with those 5 wings, though like from an angle they still look like ice, this is like the outside, this is the jaw of the creature, and it like opens up. When you are like picking up and like moving this thing around, it's rather rigid still. You're moving stone. It feels like what a relatively similar amount of stone would feel like. Looks like ice. You know that there's like a creature. The teeth would still be visible inside of that one that basically like died separated from itself. The other ones, they pretty much all like shattered like rock when Fen destroyed them. Some of the ones were basically like killed as they fell, and they shattered like rock as well, from like the fire bolts. I think that's kind of like investigation kind of take on what you could learn from those things.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, so Brennick's wondering, I mean, these things, was wondering if it's almost more instinctive than like intelligent. Seems like they probably need something more substantial to actually like lock a descent. But he's almost wondering like if they were to hold like a blanket or something like above them as they went, if the thing landed on that, would essentially try to latch onto that, allowing them to potentially avoid being like engulfed. But he doesn't have any. But he would just kind of like share that with the others, like he's just kind of thinking out loud, kind of thing. Um, but if the others were ready to continue, he would suggest maybe trying to kind of continue on up and see if maybe there's some other area of the dome that might actually have like an entrance, since we can only see kind of this one part of it right now in the ice.
Are you doing something over your head, like a bedroll or something?
What do the others think? Like when Braddock brings this idea up.
Well, if it, yes, I believe, yeah, I would definitely like to check for an entrance. If we can find one in the upper area.
I think Braddock is he's gonna root around in his pack, and he's got a blanket in there. It's probably pretty nasty looking now. But he's gonna essentially kind of like drape that over him, and even if he looks a little funny with it, almost kind of like he's trying to keep the rain out or something like that. But as he's gonna be like kind of holding that over his head as he continues up here.
I think Fenn's just going to keep his sword drawn.
All right. So as you two move kind of up to and beyond this next wizard here, there's going to be kind of 2 different points where you guys are going to hear that same whistle. As far as I'm going to go here right now, Brennick and um, Valixsys seem like they're like inside of their blankets. I don't think you two are especially ready for this. Ben, I'm going to say you have surprise on them. So there are 2 of these creatures that are falling right now for you and for Brennick. And I mean, realistically, yeah, we're just gonna start with your initiative. Not even a surprise round. It'll work out. Yeah, just do it like that.
Are we re-rolling initiative for this new encounter?
No. I'm just keeping this. So, Fen, you've got two of these creatures right now, basically, like leaping out at both you and Brennick. I'm just curious what you would like to do. You have a chance to attack it before it's going to hit you.
Uh, yes, I'd like to take that.
Yeah, so
Just,
go for it. You've got everything here. This isn't like asking you for a reaction. This is like take your turn before it.
yeah. Again, out of key, so it's just a standard sword unarmed.
Gotcha. Going for the one going for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Describe those three attacks that you like kill this creature as it's flying towards you or falling towards you.
So yeah, as it drops, he's going to leap into the air and slash out with the sword, and then landing will do a backward crescent heel kick and follow it up with a jab straight on right to finish it off.
So watching him ducking and weaving, Brennick's just kind of walking forward, and this creature's just going to fall right down into the ground right next to you, Brennick, completely missing you. And just like very quickly, it's going to start to look like any other icicle right at your feet, basically. Then they don't have a second move; they just fall. It's a very weird creature. So you can either kill that thing, or you can kind of leave it. It's kind of up to you. I didn't actually establish with the other ones if you finished off the other one that kind of like hid back into icicle form.
Yeah, I think this one Brannick is going to. I mean, he's kind of intrigued by these creatures, and now that it doesn't seem to pose a threat once it's kind of dropped, so he's gonna leave it.
So as you guys get a better chance to look over this area, it'll seem very much the same. This continues around in a circle, but instead of just being kind of like a ledge that you could climb up or down, the obsidian, the chardelin, is going to end in a staircase that walks those 5 feet down. And you can see as the opening in the ice seems to continue off in that direction. About 25 or so foot wide cave. It's probably like 50 to 60 feet or taller, like in this area. The dome itself is probably about 30 or 40 feet before it's like lost in view. So that cavern like gets much taller as it kind of gets away from where that orb is. But that's a very big, spacious cavern where you're at right now.
We should definitely be careful headed out to that. Um, what do you think might be out that way?
Could be more of those things, so perhaps just keep an eye to the ceiling. But Brannick is going to move to kind of start down the stairs back onto the ice.
Willis is going to follow suit.
At some point, Valine is going to just kind of like getting up close to everybody. Is no one going to recognize that we are going towards Drow? That she spoke of his kind, the white skinned ones?
Oh, is that what is what Hathaway meant when she said the gray skins?
I thought perhaps she meant the Durgar.
Said your people. We should be careful.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what she said. She said your people are not nice. Nothing like that. Could be wrong. That is what she said, isn't it? But regardless of which, we were headed. We need to go kill this vampire, whatever creature it is, and if it's down here, well, we're not gonna be able to avoid them forever.
I would think that wherever that thing lairs, it perhaps unlikely to lair near the drow. Drow are off in this direction. Avoid angling with them. I prefer it.
Hartwell, yeah, Hartwell has seen where the Remrazes have gone deeper into darker places. It could be any of the white-skinned folk, but if there is folk from the Underdark, we should be cautious. It is all I meant. I did not mean to intrude, just to try to help as a friend.
No, it's much appreciated, Elaine. Fen, you're a bit more quiet than I am. Perhaps you should take the lead.
I thought as well. And with the light from the torch, hopefully I'll be able to see something before it sees me.
I can follow you directly behind you. That way, you have more light, unless you wish to take the light. But I assume that should something strike out at you, you would need both your hands.
I would need to be 30 feet away to use the stealth. Should give me enough light for the what is needed.
Very well. I'll make sure I'm close enough to give you enough light.
So you're going to follow Finn by about 30 feet with some light?
Yes.
Brennick will be wanting to stay close to Valixsys behind Fen, but not too far. Whenever you're ready, Fen.
Alrighty, so as you all start to head down that kind of like northwestern corridor, it stays larger for a while. The outer wall of it, while it is not smooth, still kind of retains a substantial curve that still resembles kind of like an exploded version of this crystalline orb that kind of makes up the center of that whole dais. And you can kind of see it in the edge of this cave that kind of continues down along these cracks as it follows into, once again, a larger quadrant. Or not quadrant, room. As you kind of open up and explore this room, you're going to once again see stairs that lead up and onto that dais. They're going to be just about directly south of you as you start to approach and enter into the room. And once again, you can see to your right that there are tubes coming in where the remrazes have melted through the ice and come into this kind of open area. And then from that area, you can start to go around and see more towards like that Remraz area, going towards the like the dais first. Your stealth mod is 7 with Fen? Or 8?
+8, yeah.
So as you approach up and towards that dais, you're going to spot 3 more of these wizards, all of them in a pretty kind of equal spacing from like the back of this dais to their backs to the actual area where you start to see the crystalline orb before you for the first time again. And you'll kind of like close off with a little bit of the space before you start to recognize signs that there is an opening to where this sphere of crystal Chardolin is kind of coming down, and it almost spreads open like a little doorway, and it is the size of any other human, approximately 5 or 6 foot tall doorway that you could walk in. Not especially large, but it seems to be a crack in the Chardolin sphere.
I guess Fen will motion up for the others, and he'll scan the ceiling, looking for any movement, cautiously moving towards the crack.
Yeah, as soon as Brennick, if he spots the crack, he will be moving up closer to Fen. Yeah, he's got draws his interest as he sees potentially a way inside.
Let me get a round of perception checks from you all here. So, as you all start to move up and kind of take this central area, you get a good sign of, again, this look over the sphere that there is an actual entryway, and you can see that there is like another little dais inside of this crack. And as you start to bring light across it, Brennick, you are going to notice a flash of movement in kind of the peripherals of your vision, off like below the actual like edge of the dais, and you are going to see a kind of mirage of greens and purples as this like soft sprinkling of color starts to float down over where you all are. And you are going to watch as this elf starts to cast fairy fire. And everybody needs to make, I believe, a dexterity saving throw, please.
Would the mantle grant advantage on that? Is that
Yeah, magical effect, right?
saving throws against spells? Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it looks like Valixsys, you are going to start to sparkle. Valine will as well. I can have Valine on this map. There we go. Valine will as well, and it looks like Fen and Brennick will be able to dodge out of the way, as you are going to hear from behind you in Elvish. Your kind don't belong here. This find is not yours. Leave this place.
Who are you to claim so?
We have long been outside of the view of your bright sun. You belong here as much as we belong there.
And we can see him now?
Yeah, he's standing kind of just below you all.
Does he give the appearance of a drow?
Oh yeah, 100%. Gray skin, stark white, like the actual light of your torch in his eyes is the type of thing where you can already see like a little bit of like a reflecting away from this. Definitely not somebody keen for any level of bright light. Um, Pretty stark, simple clothing, very warlike. Two swords.
And I'm assuming this conversation is happening in Elvish, right? For now.
Yeah, I think you are the one person who does not understand it.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't want to have Braddock saying anything. I figured he can't really understand. He's watching the drow, but I'm trying to get like a feel for, the, but yeah, he can't.
Definitely filled with animosity. You can hear really like those nice flowing words that you've heard like at least Fen use speaking in Elvish at times. But there's definitely a strong twist of hatred in the way that this creature speaks, and 100% when it speaks to Fen, it would be even more kind of like just filled with hate.
Seeing this, Fen will do a loose translation. Again, I ask, who gives you authority over this place?
Rennick's going to try to whisper to Fen to know of Lily.
Does Fen have any reason to know any of the houses in the Underdark?
No.
All right, because I know I've got a name here. I can't find what I think is the house, which is all they would refer to. But effectively, they are going to respond to you by House Yosebek. We have claimed this, and our matron mother would sooner see you die than walk away. Walk away or die.
Wait a minute. If your mother would rather see us dead than walk away, wouldn't that just mean that if we walk away, you're gonna attack us anyway?
He'll look back at you with a wry smile.
Yeah, nah. He's they're gonna attack us if we try to leave. Uh, what do y'all want to do about this? Because obviously he has no intention of letting us go forward, and of course he already given away that if we try to leave, we're getting attacked. So I'll leave that decision up to y'all.
Rennick's going to look towards the drow. You speak common, drow?
Um, think it's going to kind of look back at you, and in a language that you don't understand, say 3 words, spit on the ground, and it just kind of like reach back with one of its arms, and it is going to form a blade into its hand. And as it kind of like raises that hand up, 2 arrows are going to fly across everybody's face towards Valixsys. And I need y'all to roll initiative. My bad, not sure why I said 2 arrows. But it is going to hit. It is a arrow. And it's going to deal 7 points of piercing damage to you, Valixsys. And then 10 points of poison damage. And can you roll a Constitution saving throw, which should be at disadvantage? Excellent. Alrighty. So yeah, when he kind of raises his sword up like that, arrows are going to fly over him, sink into Valixsys. What would you all have Valine do here?
Does Valine speak Elvish? Has she been following the conversation?
She does indeed. Valine would know that drow are better off assumed dangerous until you know that they're dead. You all don't have an idea in mind. I think this is a perfect time for her to attempt to blight them.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She got a clear shot for her area of effect.
Oh yeah, and we're not in an area where we can get affected by that. So definitely.
Let me see. Let me have one of you roll a D100, please.
Roll a what?
D100, just first one to roll it. All right. So Valine is going to reach out and start to form that black ooze into the air. She's going to form it kind of around and behind the drow who is basically stancing up as he summoned his sword, and kind of splash it down around behind him. Um, you're going to hear plenty of screaming as this basically eats away at his flesh as it like touches over him. But you're not hearing it from two places or like multiple places into this cavern hall. Solid idea that you were not able to pick up the other one who is basically dashing vaguely in that direction. Um, as that kind of splashes down, that drow is going to be visually injured. He is effectively bloodied with the top half of his torso, um, kind of like picked holes in, and like active like necrosis, like just dark black wounds over his flesh, and it will go to Fen. Oh nope, I lied. My bad. Actually, it's going to that. Alrighty. It is going to run up Valixsys. Still has advantage on you. And 2 attacks with its blades. So the first strike is going to deal 10 piercing, 16 poison. Good time to roll really low. And then 13 piercing with the second strike, as it like kind of punches through your like rib cage with its sword, and that's going to be followed with 18 more poison. Is Valixsys still standing?
No, she is knocked out again.
Gotcha. Just knocked out, not taken near like a total afterwards.
No. She's out of health.
Gotcha. That is going to go then to Fen.
Fen is going to move up.
All right, longsword and the second unarmed strike are both just kind of going to be parried away, as it's defending itself and kind of striking out. The first of the unarmed strikes, though, are going to kind of take it by unawares. As you can kind of see, like at first it expects once you draw the sword that the blows are going to come from the sword. And you see like an odd little hint of like, oh, okay. See where you're going with this, as it blocks the next one.
That'll end my turn.
That takes us to Brennick here.
Yeah, so Brannick is moving back towards the entrance or to the stairs, kind of moving around so he can get a line of sight on this guy from the behind the statue, and he is launching a firebolt at the drow that's now engaged with Ben.
Solid strike into it for 6 more. Kind of like a smash of the fire against its back. It burns. It burns a wound. The drow seems to be kind of provoked with hatred as it's striking out and moving forward. Valixsys, will you switch to me and roll a death saving throw? See how sure that bond is that you formed today. Roll a 20, please. Excellent roll. You're going to hear like cry from the western side of this room, and it almost like flows through like the cathedral hall of how big this open space is under here, as you hear again in Elvish, so for matron mother. And you are going to see as into the light this creature is going to strike down at really, I rolled Valixsys. creature is going to strike down at Valixsys on the ground. It will hit with the first of its attacks. And the second attack, I think that legitimately actually still a hit. 15. What's her AC at?
13.
13. Yeah, it's going to leap into the center of you all and once again finish off Valixsys.
Valixsys, you don't have any inspiration to turn it into a miss?
I do, and I have not used my inspiration since I've been gaining it, so I don't know how much. I know I have a lot, but I don't know how much.
You have 24 inspiration right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that a miss.
How many points are you going to sink into it?
Should put 10.
Gotcha. You can make that second strike miss. It's going to smash down into the ground with both blades, and one of them is just going to slide right off one of your scales and down into the obsidian, where everybody's going to hear this like wretched crack as these two forces just come to a stop. And it should go to Valine. This is where things get interesting for her. I think one of the best things for her to do right now is to do something like Tasha's for you all. Get something laughing. Otherwise, simply to like hold person might work. She's got some options. Kind of remove or control the battlefield for you all at all. What are you all thinking?
I'm
A
thinking
whole
maybe,
person.
or I was thinking like Tosh is on the one that's just arrived, the fresh one. At least maybe give us a chance to finish off the other one.
What were you saying, Valixsys?
I was saying a whole person on the same one that just arrived as well. Whichever one is actually better, actually. I feel like would be the one that she would go with.
Any thought on which one? Do you want to be a tiebreaker for us? Pick one for us, Don.
No, I agree. The newcomer.
But also Tasha's or hold person.
Hold person.
So Valixsys, roll a d20 for me. Sorry, sometimes that's kind of mean. Yeah, you're going to watch as she reaches out and starts to like incant this chant towards him. I think it would have been advantage too because it's a elf. And she's going to start to chant and kind of release this like powerful wave out of her hand. And as it kind of like flows over this drow, you'll see as he kind of pauses for the slightest of instances, just a little hitch in his strikes down towards the ground before he breaks her will. And it will go back to the injured one. And this one is striking out at, I think I just rolled Valixsys again. Yeah. So other option is I gave you guys that cool new feat that you could dive in front of attack, but it's going to strike down for Valixsys. Big ol' miss, even with advantage. And with the second attack, that one should be a solid hit. Any thoughts of reducing that, Valixsys?
I'm gonna do 8 points to reduce that, making a miss.
Gotcha. So again, kind of smashing down. It's just the type of thing where, like Jackie Chan style, Fenn's over there, just kind of like sliding the body of Valixsys into and out of the range of these blades as they're kind of chopping down around you guys. And that would take us back to Fenn.
I'm gonna keep on with the wounded one.
All right, first one is going to hit. These are all just straight these days, so for 7 damage. The other two, one of them you're kind of going to like punch into and almost come like just in contact with its leather as it like loses the ability to pull back anymore, and you lose your actual reach distance before kind of like swinging back through with the other, and it's able to evade your touch. And that would take us to Brennick.
Yeah, Brannick is going to, seeing these, seems like both of them are trying to finish off Valixsys. He is going to cast a second level magic missile at the wounded drow.
I feel like that's going to be an auto kill at this point. Yeah, that's going to shred it to pieces. As like the 4 bolts hit into the same point, back of the skull type of thing. You just bring it down to the ground and it's just going to slunch over. Valixsys, I think you are still set on me. You have a couple of inspiration remaining. Would you whisper me a d20 roll? Good roll. And we are going to another of the warriors. This time it is not going for Valixsys.
Thank God.
What did I roll though? It's going for Valine. So yeah, I think it's kind of just crossing. It's got to step away from. Valine is not in a space. Is that what it is? It's just gonna kind of step across, attacking into Valine. Just 2 attacks. First of those is going to hit. The second one's going to miss. For about 24 damage to her. And that will take us to Valine. What are you guys thinking from her at this point?
I think she'll just try and probably defend herself as this thing comes. So maybe
Pyrrhic touch. She's going to reach out into and try to grab its throat. And as she gets a hold of it, you're going to see as she like brings it forward to like kiss it, and it's just going to start to flow out this like black mucus out of this thing's mouth, and she's going to start to suck in its soul. And you're going to see as her body is going to. Oh, I did not roll. Yeah, her body is going to start to heal up and kind of repair some of these like cuts and tears on it from these fresh wounds. What a shit roll. But yeah, she will suck out some of its health. And Fen, on down to the list of you three.
It's me again.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna keep hammering out.
Yeah, definitely much more effective just cutting across this thing as it is being like picked up by Valine. Big old gash across its back, solid punch into its torso. It's just kind of like wrinkly enough that you're not able to get your fists on it twice. And Brannick, what would you like to do, sir?
Yeah, Brannick doesn't have much left, but I think he's going to yeah, he's gonna try to mind spike it.
Wisdom save?
Wisdom 15.
Yeah. So I think as you start to like reach into its mind, you're going to hear for the first time like its voice in like a translated sound. Um I assume that like I'll still probably take half of that. That it's
Half,
not
yeah.
all or none.
Half, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just going to kind of like almost in a cursed kind of like feeble attempted magic child. And then right now, I believe this is the big one for Valixsys. Can you take it off of Whispered and now roll a public roll? You are 2 and 2. So Valixsys is going to gasp for breath before you all start to hear like a steady breathing coming from Valixsys. And it is going to go to the actual Drow Warrior. Once again, going for Valixsys. And if so, how many?
Wait, what? Because you said, and if so, how many?
Yep. Right now, you're about to get hit by another attack.
6.
Gotcha. Use them up. It will miss. And is going to strike down once more. This kind of comes back to right now. Fen, would you take a hit to save Valixsys' life?
Yes.
Take 6 piercing and 15 poison damage for me, please. As you can kind of like leap in front of its blade and kind of like deflect it away as you're pierced into the ground. I don't know if I put it in there. I wonder if you should be prone, but I don't think it's in there. So it's going to go to you. I mean, it's right after Valine. What do you all think Valine would do here?
Assuming she maybe can't vampiric touch again.
She could.
She's still pretty, like, she got some back, but I feel like I don't know what's she looking like. Is she looking hurt or?
She was inside of mortally wounded when she vampiric touched.
Still feel
So
like
it's pretty safe to say she's feeling pretty injured right now.
yeah, and if it turns and attacks her, it might still be able to bring her down. So I don't know. I think maybe she'd try that again.
So keeping a solid grip on it, she's going to once again try to suck the life out of this creature. Damn. And she will indeed pull some. And that puts us back on Finn. That would put him as bloodied here as well.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Everybody's spouting out blood. Oh, yeah. Solid crit for 22, 30,
There we go.
40 damage. Yeah, I feel like that is 100% a solid describe how you kill him. That's definitely a see the weakness and you just shredded him.
Needed that.
So as you kind of take the moment to like smash the sword into its skull, kind of like you still see it like almost like twitching but still kind of fighting, and 2 little pops like right to its chest. You can just see as this entire like drow just goes limp in a steady moment as it's like still like stuck onto his sword, and you can kind of shake it loose. We are going to pick up here next week. You all are right in a safe instance of what might be a dangerous place. You just kind of encountered some drow, and we'll kind of see how that plays out next week. But other than that, yeah, I hope everybody has a good week here. I hope you enjoy playing forward with Valixsys, and I hope you get plenty of time to do so. But currently, I'm going to say, it seems like my dice want to kill you. And I play a pretty consistent rolling for who I attack. They wanted to attack Valixsys today.
Bruh, this game does not want her to live at all. Like I think Valixsys is the last one of the original group when this campaign started. Like one of the original characters. And now the game is like, yeah, it's time for you to die.